Now, beloved in the Lord, Elijah the prophet, after prophesying about the drought and leaving the town to meet the woman who was a widow to take care of him, we are made to understand by the word of the Lord that a time came that the Lord asked the prophet Elijah to go and show himself to King Ahab. And then because he happened to be a prophet of the Lord, he hearkened to the voice of the Lord. And so he set off to go and meet King Ahab. Don't forget that after making that prophetic declaration that there shall be no dew or rain in the land, the brooks began to dry up. And so the Lord asked him to leave the town and go to where he had already shown him. And so of all the calamities that went on, Elijah wasn't in town. But a time came where the Lord asked him to go and show himself to King Ahab. I want to believe that God wanted to draw the attention of the king to the fact that he rules in the affairs of men. And when the prophet Elijah returned to the land of Israel, the word of the Lord says he met a man by name Obadiah. And he told Obadiah that go and inform the king that he will see him. But the gentleman was afraid. The essence of him being afraid was that he was of the view that immediately he leaves the presence of the prophet Elijah, he may vanish. The prophet may vanish. And so what happened was that he told Elijah the prophet, I am afraid that when I leave you here, the Spirit of God will take you to another place. And it will sound in the ears of the king that maybe I am telling him lies. But Elijah, the prophet of God, gave him his word. He gave Obadiah his word that he will surely see the king. He gave the prophet Obadiah. The prophet Elijah gave the servant of God who was serving in the land of Israel by name Obadiah. He gave him his words that he will surely see the king. And so a time came when the prophet Elijah met with the king. And when the king saw Elijah, he said something. What he said was that here comes the troubler of Israel. But the prophet was quick to respond that, no, I am not the troubler of the people of Israel. You are the troubler of the people of Israel. And so a discourse went on between the prophet Elijah and the king. Now the discourse was that Elijah spoke a word, for how long will we be torn between two opinions? If Baal is God, let us all serve him. And if Yahweh is the true God, let's serve him. Now what you need to understand, beloved in the Lord, is that at this juncture, the nation Israel was torn between two opinions. They didn't know whether to worship Baal or to worship the God who delivered them from the oppressive rule of the people of Egypt. To some of them, God didn't exist. To some of them, the only God they knew was Baal. Because the very first day that Ahab got married to Jezebel, she brought about the service and the serving of this foreign god by name Baal. And so the people were used to worshiping and serving Baal instead of serving the true God. And this made the prophet of God by name Elijah to become angry. And he said, we have torn between two opinions for too long a time. If Baal is a god, let us serve him. If Yahweh happens to be the true God, then we don't have any other option than to serve him. The word of the Lord says, Elijah threw a challenge to the prophets of Baal. And when he threw the challenge, we are made to understand by the word of the Lord that the prophets of Baal did their best, but their best wasn't enough. The prophets of Baal did their best, but the word of the Lord says their best wasn't enough. The challenge he threw to them was that whoever is able to call fire to come from heaven to consume what they had already prepared, then that God should be the God that they all need to serve and worship. So he allowed them to start. Like I've already said, they did their best, but their best wasn't enough. Now, can I shock somebody tonight? Sometimes in life, you may want to do your best, but if the God factor is not in it, your best wouldn't be enough. But as for you tonight, I pray for you that you will do your best, and your best will be enough because the God factor will be at work in your favor. I said you will do your best, and your best will be enough because of the God factor. The word of the Lord says, and Elijah waited till the time of the evening sacrifice. Watch this. Because he was a prophet of God, he understood the seasons and the times. Which is why the word of the Lord will tell you and I, that as for the sons of Issachar, they understood the times and the seasons. Now, Elijah, because he happened to be a prophet of the Lord, knew that there are two times to make sacrifices unto God. We have the morning sacrifice and then the evening sacrifice. So the prophet by name Elijah waited till the evening sacrifice, the time for the evening sacrifice. And when he waited for that time, that was the time that he decided to also do what the Lord had laid on his heart to do. But before doing what the Lord had laid on his heart to do, he did something. The word of the Lord says, Elijah repaired the broken altar of God. Now, for the fact that he repaired the broken altar of God stands to reason that because of the worship of Baal, they had broken the altar of God. And it stands to reason that the people were no longer interested in even using the altar of God. But listen to me, child of God. An altar is a spiritual arena whereby spiritual transactions take place. An altar is a place whereby divinity encounters humanity. So that was the only altar the people of Israel knew. But because of the worship of Baal, they had allowed it to be broken down. And because the prophet of God knew that he didn't have to use any other altar apart from the altar of the Lord, the word of the Lord says he prepared the broken altar of God.